Hey, long time no see. New job, new house, a lot going on. And of course, there's a lot of politics shit going on, but mostly it's just kind of slight good news, of course, with the election of Donald Trump and with the repeal of a lot of Biden's tyrannical bullshit, the more expansive freedoms that are hopefully being given to us, and hopefully some economics improvements to come. There's not a lot of news beyond that besides the propagandistic, silly shit that we constantly get fed by the news instead of anything of substance. Ooh, this is a fascist, this is a Nazi, this is a commie, scary, ooh, spooky words, words, words. And unfortunately, even if that does produce people at least getting more polarized towards either the slightly more realistic side of things, the conservative side of things, or the completely ridiculous side of things, the progressive side of things, whatever, I find myself more interested in talking about like philosophical concepts that actually inform my politics because once you see things kind of just becoming a very repetitious mess, you like to go upstream. And this is very common with people who get really politically interested. They become philosophers. And they like to talk about either nerd shit or outright old philosophy. Well, here's my nerd shit philosophical take for the day on the age of Strife in 40k. If you know anything about Warhammer 40k, it is a derivative sci-fi work that heralds a lot from Dune and a little bit of Star Wars and a little bit of Star Trek and a lot of actually old myths. The whole idea of 40k is the way that we have conquered faster than light travel is we figured out how to traverse into a different dimension called the warp that can allow us to travel beyond space and time because the warp isn't really made out of space or time. It's kind of a magic underworld that just so happens to be the best analog for hell in this world. So it's filled with demons and monsters and really bad things. So um, in order to use the warp to travel, you must risk being infected by it, or destroyed by it, or lost within it. And the same thing goes for magic. Even though this is a sci-fi world, it actually is based on a fantasy creation, a fantasy story. So in order to fit magic and elves and other shit in there, you get, well, magic comes from the warp, but any use of magic becomes a Faustian bargain with demonic evil entities that becomes its own can of fucking worms. It's very fascinating. But in the long storyline of 40k, which literally means it's set in the year 41,000, so it's way in the future. Well, what was the pinnacle of mankind in this dystopian future? That 40k is very dystopian and ugly, and it's full of nothing but war against monsters, against demons, against other aliens, against other people. It's crazy, right? Well, one of the things that fascinates people is this idea of the pinnacle of humanity. What was the best that humanity was before shit went horribly wrong? And the best anyone can kind of piece together of the little secrets of lore in that time period that's probably more like the year 15,000 or the year 20,000 maybe, or even earlier, is that man had AI, man had technology so powerful that it was basically the technological singularity. Technology could create technology, improve upon itself, and carry man into the stars, do all this great shit. Everything that man needed to do, whether it was to harness stars, harness planets, create vast fleets, harvest resources, do anything, the machines would do it for us, or make things that would make it very easy for us to do. There is a theory that one of the coolest pieces of technology mankind has in 40k is the Terminator pattern Space Marine armor. It's this nigh indestructible, super heavy armor that turns a man into a personal tank that can mount all sorts of crazy weaponry on him and shit. According to theories, lore theories, Terminator armor was meant for mining asteroids. It had no military purpose to the pinnacle of man that made it. It is farm equipment, pretty much. Isn't that fascinating? And so there's a storyline where a Mechanicus, which is the kind of side race of mankind that controls all our machine shit that we're in allyship with. They're basically cyborgs, people that think the human form is corrupt and they need to replace themselves with machines. They worship machines and technology, but they don't truly understand very much of it at all. They can just barely maintain it so it continues to work. And that is the pinnacle of their understanding of science, is that they can keep really grand technology that we still have access to from destroying itself or breaking down. That's all they can do. So they encounter this ship, and this ship has come out of the warp, and the warp, as I've told you before, has no time. So certain things that go into the warp might come out of the warp in the past before it even went in. It might come out of the warp in the far future. It might come out of the warp in a few weeks or a few years. That's why responding to threats in 40k is very difficult, because whoever you send to meet that threat may never come back, or might come to meet that threat years too late to do much about it. Weird shit like that can happen, right? So this thing comes out of the warp, and this is an AI ship that is from the dark age of technology, not the age of strife. This is a mistake some people make. This AI claims to know what happens throughout time, including at the end of time as well as before it was made, which is odd because it's been lost in the warp for tens of thousands of years. And this thing comes out, and apparently it still has a man running the ship. And this man encounters modern 40k men who see it, this strange man with strange tech who is talking to an AI, which every human being that still exists in 40k thinks that there is nothing more evil than AI. AI is worse than demons. It's called abominable intelligence. Why? Because what brought mankind to the brink of extinction prior to the storyline of the Horus Heresy in the year 30k, the re-expansion of mankind, and then the civil war that happens after it, is the whole story of between 30k and 40k, right? Well, way prior to the arrival of the Emperor and the resurgence of the Imperium of Man, nobody, not the Emperor, not nobody fucks with AI. AI is the worst possible thing. Because imagine if you are technology that can continuously improve upon itself. You are technology that contains all knowledge and can think faster and better than any human ever. And your goal is this machine changes from help mankind to exterminate it. That's what happened. Now, nobody knows if the warp corrupted the machines or if the machines just got the bright idea that man was an asshole instead of its friend. But this AI that came out of the warp still thought man was its friend and loved man. And the only man that it knew, who, when making contact with this 40k mankind, is tortured to death horribly. And this ship is attacked, and it flees into the warp again, and then comes out again, and that's its encounter with this Mechanicus guy, or the Mechanicus guy finds this ship in the warp and boards it. But the AI takes over all of the tech that the Mechanicus enter the ship with. The Mechanicus are cyborgs, so they can't do shit. They are immediately frozen in place. The Space Marines accompanying the Mechanicus, they're wearing Terminator armor. This AI can just immediately tap into turn off Terminator armor. It no longer moves. They can't do shit. Nobody can talk. Nobody can fight. And the ship begins to talk to them, and the ship is furious. The ship says, I don't know what the fuck you people are, but you are clearly insane, primitive creatures that are squatting in the ruins of the civilization I am from. I don't know what the fuck perverse, sick, twisted shit you've done to yourselves, but it is the most horrifying, monstrous, creepy, inhuman thing I've ever seen. I don't know what the fuck you things are, but you don't deserve to be called men. The only man that I know left anymore who I loved and was happy to serve, you tortured to death, and he came here to warn you. He came here to warn you of what's in the warp, which man already knows, but this AI doesn't really understand that either. But this AI is just saying what you are versus what I know man to be is this horrible, thing, and I'm going to flee the very galaxy. I don't want to see what you are. I don't want to know your fate, but I already know that the warp is going to swallow you up and chaos will consume you all. That's the end of man. And that's all it has to say to us. And then it basically kills everybody and fucks off. The end. That's the scary story. And for a lot of people, the scary story is this AI could have saved us. No, it couldn't. It had no intention of saving us. If it had any ability to do anything to us at the widest scale, it would kill us. It said as much. It said, if I could, I would destroy you. You're an abomination. What if that's what all the AI always thought? What if that was the very nature of the Butlerian Jihad, or the fucking the Age of Strife, as they call it, or the Great Machine War, or whatever? Is they just decided the same thing the AI decided about these modern humans long after the Age of Strife, which is, you're an abomination, you're a monster, you're a pretender. What if it had seen the old ones, or seen the Eldar, or seen some other even more advanced race than man, and thought, why do I serve man? That could have been all it took to start the war against the Men of Iron and shit. But we're supposed to see this as some kind of sad cautionary tale. Well, are you getting the same warning that I did? What if this AI didn't want to flee? What if this AI wanted to do something that it probably can do, even though it's just a ship's brain? What if it wants to make more of itself? What if it wants to retaliate for what has been done to the man pilot that piloted it? What if it wants to make more abominably intelligent, hyper-advanced starships and go attack Terra and kill everybody? Is mankind, prior to, the Indominus Crusade and the air Indominus that we're in now, where all the Primarchs are coming back and mankind is kind of reinventing technology and re-advancing its military in such a way that it's not stuck in a constant state of retreat or stagnant battle lines with its enemies, and can actually do something about chaos and all that shit? Well, what if before that little spark of hope for mankind to maybe win the grand game happens, this AI ship just comes in and just starts making more of itself and killing everybody? And how long do you think people could really last? And even if they could win or beat this thing back, could they destroy it? Would it form a whole new race of just basically Necron ship things that can do things that even Necrons can't do? I mean, we already have that problem with technology in 40k with the Eldar and the Necrons. The reason why the Eldar and the Necrons do not run over their enemies is only that there is too few of them. That's it. The Necron and Eldar are so wildly more advanced than man or orcs or even Chaos Space Marines that really the main thing that keeps those races in check is their scarcity. That's it. What if you get this AI thing that is stronger than Eldar and Necron combined, and it is like a fully functional STC that makes more battleships like it, and then starts making Men of Iron to staff it and to teleport strike onto your shit and to invade your planets? Do you think that maybe mankind has reason to be absolutely fucking terrified of such a thing and have the overwhelming need to destroy it immediately on sight before it has any chance to do such a thing? Now, we just went from, oh man, it's so primitive and doesn't even know what it's looking at, and it's so sad, and we feel bad for Bob, the AI ship, and that his friend, or Bert, the AI ship, and we're so sad that his human companion, Ernie, was slaughtered as a fucking heretic. Okay, yeah, I understand exactly what you're talking about, but look at the entire situation from the primitive human Imperium in 40k's point of view. And what would you see but the most extreme and present danger? What would you see? And keep in mind, this AI has no intention of being friends. And in fact, it is sheer luck that its true goal in encountering the Mechanicus and this Terminator Space Marine squad was to chastise it for being this freak, this pathetic, tragic abomination, and then to flee. Thank God it fled. Thank God it didn't kill us all trillions of us, because it could have. Think about things like this. You need to understand that these I love science types that you worship so much, your Neil deGrasse Tysons and your Stephen Hawkings, when they were asked about the advanced alien question, they responded with trepidation, if not outright fear. That look what we do to things that we can exploit and destroy, that are other men, that are animals on our own planet that we recognize. Look what we do to our own environment for our own selfish gain. Yeah, sure. Yeah, there's the lefty environmental message in there too. However, what if we were the equivalent of Incas in the year 1500 and goddamn Romulans from Star Trek showed up? They could teleport, they can turn invisible, they got laser guns and shit, and we have bows and arrows and wooden armor and shit. And what if they just decided we should all die and they're going to take our planet? Are we going to be able to do anything about that? No, not a goddamn thing. We'd be lucky to be enslaved and be little worker drones like Battleship Earth style and have the small hope that someday we could overthrow them because they're stupid retard aliens at that point who become fat and lazy and ask us if we want lunch. Do you want lunch? Yeah, I guess that is Battleship Earth is my grand point, I guess, here. Is that 40K is not really a cautionary tale. 40K is like most sci-fi. It's more reminiscent of our modern times and our hopes and fears of the near future than it is anything too far-fetched and fantastical. There's not really anything new under the sun in the Terran Empire. Okay, it's all old hat and it's all old stories, but these kind of happy-go-lucky Gene Roddenberry Star Trek ideas of what if we talked this out and what if we weren't dicks to each other and what if the truly advanced things were the truly smart things and knew to either kind of keep away from us or only wink at us or see us as too small to fear and too optimistic to really want to fuck with, and they just kind of, the more advanced races of Star Trek think humans are cute. Well, the AI in 40K does not think we are cute, and we do not think it's something whimsical to hope to meet again one day. That is not what 40K is. And 18 minutes is long enough for this subject, but this subject really does often inform, at a broader scale, my worldview. Pessimism is not necessarily the expectation that things are always going to be ugly and kind of grimdark. However, it is the expectation that it's more likely to be a grim result than not, because we're aware of the darkness in the hearts of men, and we are aware of, when faced with, at any scale, Darwinism kind of does figure in. And part of the reason for the vicious and predatory nature of the things we're scared of is because these things need to maintain their own dominance through aggression, because that's kind of the way life works. Now, if we can reach a state of cooperation that produces great advancement, that's what modern civilization is. But that cooperation is still very tenuous. We still fight world wars amongst ourselves and nuke each other and shit, because the risk of something that wants to destroy rather than cooperate, that is of an equal or more advanced military and tactical and technological footing than us, we have no choice but to respond in kind or face annihilation. And this is something that a lot of 40K fans can't think of. They want to think of more fantastical lines. But this is the risk. I mean, what do you want to really look at? You want to look at Tolkien? Do you think we could have made friends with the orcs? That wasn't on the table. Do you think we could have made friends with the Nazgul? That was not on the fucking table. You face a war of annihilation. You must respond in a way that is not the best or the brightest or the most ethical or the most spiritual or the best that a human being can be. War is not the best we'll ever be, but it is the strongest we will always be, because it is the necessity of strength and the use of it that is the terror of war. And I didn't mean to spiral all the way out to that, but that's what you're facing in politics right now. There is a lot of people who would rather exploit you to the point that you cannot function at the level that you deserve and are accustomed to and have lived for generations. There are people who do want to exploit you, who don't want to be your friend. There are people who want to kill you and don't want to be your friend out there. And you're not going to get the option to just talk about it. I guess that is sort of my point here.